Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Just thought I'd drop another video just around some of the lessons learned, I suppose, from the Spain road trip. Thought it might be useful to other people that are thinking of planning a similar trip. This video picks up where I'd cleaned my bike and just needed to try and sort the chain out and do a little bit of maintenance. So there's some of that footage and a little short intro in the background there, along with some ride footage. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Here with a Speedy. Since we got back from Spain, giving it a good clean, so it's looking good. Haven't run it since I got back, just been busy with work and editing videos and stuff. It's been taking up all my time, but I need to get out on it. I've got to give the chain a good clean. That's one of the things that's left. Clean all the gunk out, re-lube the chain, and then grease all the joints, and then hopefully should be good to go. So one of the first topics I wanted to discuss was gear that you take with you. Now, we went around the houses, all of us, with this for weeks on end, and we were obsessing over the weather forecast. Up until the week before we went, it was consistently no higher than around 20 to 22 degrees, and there was lots of rain. And then a few days before we went, the weather just flipped, and then there was a sudden heat wave. So that made choosing the gear for the trip incredibly difficult. What I will say is that if you are buying gear specifically for the trip, do not buy it too early, because you cannot guarantee what the weather is going to be like. Again, this one might sound obvious, but if it's going to be really hot, do make sure you've got some mesh gear. I shopped around for mesh trousers with a 34-inch leg and I couldn't find any in stock, so I ended up going with my armoured Kevlar jeans, and they were extremely hot. Another thing I wanted to say about gear is, you'll see eventually when the video comes out, I thought that over trousers like you see people buying would be sufficient. So I purchased some Risha Rain Warrior over trousers, and it's very clear that that sort of kit is not good for sustained riding in the rain. It might be fine if you're at work or something to get you home half hour or an hour, or if you get caught out on a day trip, but I was absolutely soaked when I got home. And the thing with that is, if it would have rained while we were away, it would have been so miserable. Now, I thought this was a pretty good idea, but I just raided my sock drawer for any socks that started to look like they might be at the end of their life, and underwear and things like that, and even a couple of t-shirts. When I packed and I left, yes, things were crammed in quite a lot, but as time went on the road, and then I just binned some socks or a t-shirt that was at the end of its life. I was wearing clean clothes, but then I was like gaining space back throughout the time. So what I tend to do, even when I go on holiday in a normal hot country, even if I've got tons of space in a suitcase, is I will normally not pack something for every day. And then what I'll do is just I'll wash my socks, whatever it is, put them up to dry, and they're good to go again by the morning. So combined with binning some stuff and washing the odd pair of socks or whatever, that seemed to sustain me for the trip, and I didn't need to fill up, half of a bag with underwear and other bits, which was quite good. Okay, so on to another lesson that we learned reasonably early, I guess, which is to not try to cover too much ground. Now, I guess this depends on how experienced you are and what type of bike you've got, and I guess how bike fit you are. But for us, we don't do a huge amount of long distance riding, and we haven't done a road trip like this before. So I think we were covering probably around 4 to 5 hours of riding a day. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot when you look at it on the sat-nav or whatever the night before, but by the time that you add in stopping for fuel, trying to find a snack or some lunch on the road, and then eventualities as well, we hit some closed roads that weren't on the sat-nav. That took probably, a few of us had to go off in different directions and search. That took like 45 minutes easy, just stuck somewhere. So there's that. I mean, my camera fell off. Not everyone's going to be carrying things like that, but there's still things that are going to happen. And I know this is common sense, but when you see 4 hours on a map in the evening, especially if you've had a couple of beers and you're like, yeah, we can just smash that out, that 4 to 5 hours can very easily turn into an 8-hour session on the road with other things that are happening. I also think that if you're riding, especially a naked bike with no wind protection, that it can get quite tiring as well. I think just try and be a bit realistic with the amount of hours and the time that you're prepared to ride on your first road trip each day, and just factor that in. Now here's a big lesson that we learnt pretty early on, and if you've watched the Spain series, you'll realise that the very first day that we got there, we had some issues with fuel. Now, I think that was pretty unlucky because we deliberately booked a place that was right next to a fuel station, and we went into the Picos. We thought, well, we don't need to fuel up because there's a fuel station right back at the hotel. So we went to bed, no fuel in the tank. But anyway, when we got up in the morning, the petrol station that was 500 meters from us had a power cut, and it ended up kind of derailing the day because we had to go the complete opposite way by, I think it was like 15 to 20 miles to try and find some fuel and get that sorted before we could then get on the road. The tip is fuel up earlier than you think. As a general rule, after the first day when we had issues with fuel, when we got anywhere near half a tank and we saw a petrol station, we would just pull in and fuel up, and that seemed to be the right decision. Now, another lesson we learned early on is start earlier, finish earlier. It was tempting to think that we were on holiday. You know, the first night when we were there, we kind of celebrated it. We had a big meal, we had some wine and some beer, and we thought, well, we can have a bit of a lay-in. I think we planned to head out maybe 10:30. That also happened to be the day where the petrol station had a power cut and there was no fuel. It was getting on towards midday before we even started our planned journey for that day. And that made that an incredibly long day because we still had about 4 hours riding to do, I think, from about midday. I think that was the day my camera fell off as well, and all sorts happened. And it took us about 8 hours or more to do what should have been 4 hours of riding. And then we arrived at our destination at gone 8 p.m. at night. We were all hungry, we were all a bit tired, and the whole evening felt rushed, and we did not have time to kind of switch off and relax. And what I found is you need that buffer in the evening, that kind of downtime off the road to try and switch off and to relax. But also it gives you the opportunity to explore where you are a bit and then take that in rather than just rushing out, rushing back and hitting the road again. And that could get tiring really fast. The next one, I must admit, made me feel a bit anxious before I went away. Now, I've never been on a trip like this where you would book your hotel the night before, and to me that was quite worrying because in my mind it kept going through, what if we can't find somewhere? What if everywhere's fully booked? Now, this was in May. I don't think it was peak time in northern Spain. We found it relatively easy to book on the road, and what that enabled us to do, with no predetermined route, it allowed us to adapt the route on the road where we wanted to go. Now, I don't know if this is a common thing to do. We just decided to do it. We thought, well, let's just book the first night, so at least we're guaranteed like a bit of a base camp when we come off the ferry the first night, and probably a good night's sleep and a meal. But other than that, we'll just go with the flow and see where we want to go and how we feel. So we didn't pre-plan any routes. We didn't pre-plan or book any hotels after the first 2-3 nights. It just became normal, and it allowed us to adapt where we were going. If you've seen the Spain videos, if we'd have pre-booked a hotel somewhere else in the Picos, yeah, I'm sure we'd have had a great time, but it would have restricted us and we couldn't have just changed like we wanted to. It gives you greater flexibility on the road to do what you want. I've had some people mention in the comments that they've even managed to book the same day, and depending upon the distance they feel like covering that day and where they end up and where they want to stop, that's where they book. In the video that's coming up, there's a road that we found, and I don't think it was publicised well on the internet. It didn't really come up. It's just one that Simon found, and we looked on Google Maps and zoomed in, and it looked like a track going up to what was essentially a dead end in the Pyrenees. Originally, I was against going on that road because I said we can't see the surface. It's probably going to be a dead end, dirt track or gravel. On Google Maps, there was a canopy of trees over it. You couldn't see the road surface. And I said it's probably going to be a bit of a nightmare. Graham decided to plot that in on his route, and he was navigating that morning, and he did take us on that route. And I'm so glad he did, because that was probably the best view of the Pyrenees, hands down, that we had. I think the lesson learned there is, there are some fantastic roads. For sure, do the famous routes or the ones that you've heard of that you want to do, but also pick something that looks like it could be in an awesome location And again, as bikers, I think, that might sound like common sense. That's the kind of stuff that, you probably do in the UK, right? I do it all the time. We all do. I always personally take some cash in my pocket. I don't think Graham and Simon did. Me and Joe did. Now, we did end up in some places that didn't take card. And I guess that's just from myself and Joe. We go to sort of Greek islands and stuff normally once a year and hire bikes and travel around there. And there's a lot of places in Greek islands and remote places that do just take cash. So it's a bit of a habit that we always have a little bit of cash on hand. I didn't take a lot. I think it was like 150 to 200 euros maybe. And out of that, maybe 50 or 60, maybe a little bit more was needed if I bought some stuff for the other guys in places that didn't take card. But I think it's always really good to have some cash on hand in your pocket. It just makes common sense when traveling, in case you get caught out, in case your card doesn't work, their machine's down, whatever. I think, 100 to 200 euros is plenty. One other bonus tip I'm going to put in here is download, if you use Google Maps and things like that, again, it sounds obvious, but download offline maps for the region that you're going to before you go. I meant to do this. I do this in the UK because there are times where the signal drops out, and then you've probably all had it where it shows, a blue dot, and it just shows white blocks or black blocks or whatever if you've got night mode on. One other little tip, and I do this quite a lot when I'm traveling in hot countries, and it doesn't have to be expensive, is just buy yourself an insulated water bottle. I think the one that I've used for about the past 5 years in foreign countries and hot countries probably cost me £2.50 from Asda. I normally, in the morning at a hotel, I put it in my roll bag, I would just fill it up from the tap, so I've got some, room temperature water, but, or whatever, reasonably cold. And then what you can do is when you're on the road, the brilliant thing is you pull over at a petrol station, you buy a fresh cold bottle of water, you drink whatever water you need, and you can fill up the thermal bottle or insulating bottle with cold water, put it back in your bag, and it lasts for several hours while you're on the road. So when you stop, if you're melting in the middle of a mountain somewhere, you've got fresh cold water on hand. Onto the topic of luggage. Now, I looked all over the place at different options, couldn't find anything original for my bike either, and I didn't want to spend a fortune on it. So I ended up using some imitation Krieger dry packs, and they were Rhino Walk ones. Before I went, I was worried about whether they might fail, the stitching might break and things like that. They actually proved to be really robust, and they were perfect for the trip. They didn't cost me a lot. I think I had 44 litres. I had two 12-litre packs and one 20. They strap together quite nicely, and all in all, including the mounting loops, I think they might have cost me about £60 all in for the luggage, and that proved to be excellent. It also enabled me to try out that type of luggage system without spending a fortune on anything. You can just get away with, £50 to £60 on something that's quite modest on your first trip to put your stuff in. So hopefully this helps. And I would just say, if you've been thinking of doing it, just book it. We've been talking about this for such a long time. We ended up just going for a beer down the pub. Simon booked the ferry, and then we were all locked in. That was it. I fully believe that if we hadn't have gone there that night and just booked it, we'd have still been talking about it now. And obviously I'd just like to say that, this is just my opinion and just some things that I think I learned on the road. There are people out there that are way more experienced than me. And if you're watching this video and you'd like to share some of your knowledge and experience and tips, please do so in the comments. I hope this video was interesting or useful in some way. Really appreciate all the comments, all the tips, and all the feedback on the videos. Well, that's the chain done. Time to tidy up. Appreciate the support on the channel and the Spain series. Hoping to try and get back out on the bike and do some new videos soon. And there's still plenty to come on that. I think I've still got like six weeks worth of footage to go through in terms of like editing time, so I'll be a while on that one. But if you've got any ideas of things I can do and content, then let me know. Planning on trying to do some around the Cotswolds, maybe some little ride outs to different places. If there's people that places that people are interested in around the Cotswolds, but they don't know if it's worth going, then let me know, because there's chances are I've probably either been there or I'm going to go there anyway. And I can always do a video next time I go out to one of those locations or go out there specifically to do a video. Going to get this tidied up, do the bits on the other side, and then job's good for today. So anyway, thanks very much guys, and I'll see you again.